So, Neil, welcome to Time Team. Lovely to see you again.
Yeah, nice to see you too, Tim. How you doing?
Good. And how many did you do, Neil? How many time teams did you do approximately?
So I started in 2001. I think I did. It was actually one of the specials. It was the was it the Big Dig, or it was like something really massive. It was one of the specials. So there was like way more people there than a normal time team shoot. It was like outside broadcasters doing stuff. I worked all the way up until about 2010.
Well, you better explain to people listening what it was you did and how you and Zan worked together. What was it you got up to?
I was the 2D graphics. I think today people would refer to that as motion graphics, but back then didn't really have a name. And to be honest, Sam was the 3D guy. I was the 2D guy. I always saw what I did as having three roles. There would be the pre-production, the production, and the post-production, and part each of those parts had a slightly different kind of slant on what I would be doing. So, for example, for the pre-production, it would be actually, I really liked pre-production because it'd be like, oh, we need you to go out and photograph a map in the archive. So I'd go with one of the researchers or producers, and we kind of go along to the archive, sit there. They get the map out and with all the gloves and the bean bags, and I'd have to get up on ask, could I get some chairs to stand up so I could get a nice over the head shot of the maps. And back then, again, cameras didn't have it was hard to capture things to get the totality of the maps. So I'd have to kind of end up taking portions of the maps and then stitch them together to create a sort of a larger map that we could then take into something like Photoshop. And then I might get some information from the researchers and directors of some of the material that you would want to work with on the show and maybe have as props. So I'd be making kind of like graphic props that you could wiggle in front of the camera and then talk to. It's really important to have material to talk to. Otherwise, it's just words in the ether, and it's nice to have something to film. So whether it's archive material or historic material. So I'd kind of like be helping with that. And occasionally, if I got really lucky, I'd make you'd say, oh, can you make a diorama of something? So I think for Shooter's Hill, I made a nice big map with painted some little kind of models of soldiers and put them on card, and kind of sort of almost like a war room scene. I sort of created a nice little diorama of that, and kind of push around figurines and things. So that would be something that occasionally I got a chance to do.
A lot of this stuff is computer based.
Yeah.
And now we've got more software, we've got more computing power and things like that.
Yeah.
What were the things that were a real challenge for you to pull off? And because I've seen some of your maps, you're doing some of those for our shows we're doing this year, which is great. That sort of style you developed. Has software and computing power moved on a bit? And are there artistically things you're looking forward to doing now you've got new computers, new software, that sort of thing?
Even since Time Team finished on TV, over the 10-year period, 11-year period, you could just do more things. So now what you're starting to see is sites like, I think, Heritage, is it .org, they allow you to kind of do AI animations of photographs, like archive photographs, and color, and Photoshop can let you colorize photographs. So it's kind of like getting a really nice kind of sort of period of technology. It is just always getting better and better, and the things that you can do.
One of the things I remember, Neil, I think, and I wasn't ever sure quite who handled what with these things, but that business where John would give you the geophysics result, and you would then lay them out proportionally to the eye over the landscape, so that we would be looking from a tower, looking down on the site, and then you would lay out that result, but it was almost like in a 3D relationship with so John's geophysics was imposed on the landscape. Was that one of the things you were involved in?
If you wanted a 3D terrain and you wanted to drop the geophys and see how it looked on a 3D terrain, topographical site, then that would probably be RaySam, because his software allows you to really to do that, to have 3D objects in space. Whereas my software would allow you to kind of do that, but everything would look flat. So like I did a lot of like maps, and I could still work in a 3D space, but things looked a little bit more flat, like almost like thin bits of paper sort of flipping around in 3D space. I could do that. So I did a lot of overlays, a lot of superimposition, a lot of rectification of maps. So like for rectification would be like where you got different maps and they might be slightly warped, and you try to find one map that you would kind of go by and just kind of re-skew on scale and distort the map. So it kind of therefore you had one type or shape of map that you went by that was probably the most accurate, and therefore you could like locate where certain things might be, and then you could add on more layers. So it's all about layers, like the geophys information. You might have some Henry's surveying data. Then Stuart Ainsworth will also want to be kind of maybe putting some of his sketches, and we would actually work. So this is more of the production side of things, Tim, because we would work together quite a lot, because I think he found it quite useful to have someone who was able to kind of take his information and just make it a little bit more like TV friendly. And we'd often do like a session, and I was I was almost like the I guess the graphics monkey. I was kind of the mute, because I wouldn't actually have a lot to say. They'd mic me up, but I was kind of like more of just really like operating it and kind of being the fall guy to Stuart, who would be saying, so you know this would happen, and then we'll have, Neil, can you just show this layer? And he might be talking to the expert, and I'd just be turning on the layers and presenting the information. Occasionally I could maybe say, oh, I don't know why I did that. Why did you ask me to do that dot in red or something? Oh, Neil, glad you asked me that. Yeah. So, and then he could maybe say the significance. But yeah, so it was, I mean, I always like working with Stuart. It was one of my favorite people to work with, one of my favorite jobs on Time Team.
Were there any particular shows where you thought, oh, that was a good one, we cracked that one?
It's so hard to remember a specific one, only because when you do so many shows, a lot of the information, it kind of blurs into one another. There's the ones that tend to stand out because they're very different. So there was the one where what was it? It was a Turner picture. We kind of like where, I don't know if you remember, but Stuart was able to locate the point in the landscape where the artist painted a picture, which was quite interesting. So I think there was lots of trying to triangulate the viewpoints, and yeah, so things like that tended to kind of sort of stand out in my my memory. But as like specifics, it's almost like, you know, like when we found the gold coin, that was Codner Castle, right? Yeah. And so for me, it wasn't the gold coin that stood out in my memory. It's that I was asked to make something called the Codner Pages, which was basically taking Victor's illustrations of certain scenes and then kind of making them into a tapestry. So for me, as from a graphics point of view or an artist's point of view, there was more significance, and that's why I remember, oh, that was at Codner. Yeah, so I remember things for different reasons, perhaps, than the archaeologists do. For, you know, when they find a pottery and they go, oh yeah, that was a Warwick or Lincolnshire or whatever the site was.
There was a nice thing that sort of developed later on in the series where you seem to create an effect where Victor's 2D picture would appear to have a depth to it, you know, like a kind of false 3D, so that you'd see the figures, but instead of being against a flat background, they almost had some sort of distance on it. What was going on there?
so what you're talking about is in motion graphics, that's called 2.5D or parallax animation. And so it's where you basically you actually cut out portions of Victor's pictures. So if there's a foreground elements, you'll cut out, so people in the foreground. Midground elements, maybe there's a horse or a car or a building, and then the background elements, you kind of separate them out, so the scenery in the background and the sky and some of the ground. So you've got all these different layers, and then I can put them into sort of 3D space and have a 3D camera kind of go into them. And so we started to do, once that kind of graphic was possible, we started to do that. And I remember at the time trying to figure out how to do it, because this was before YouTube, when we started doing this. And usually whenever I don't know how to do something, I usually go to YouTube and try to find a tutorial on how to do it. But back then it was basically either work with people who know how to do it, which I wasn't, like, or it's figure it out yourself. So I kind of figured out a process, but also you've got to figure out a process which or a workflow which is kind of efficient as well. So just trying to kind of not make a meal of it. So after a few goes, I kind of got into a really good kind of workflow where I was able to kind of turn out these pictures and actually in an efficient way, in a time scale, because it wasn't just that graphic that I'd have to do. I'd have to do a whole bunch of other graphics for the show. There could be like 20 different graphics, so you have to kind of balance it all out. But so as far as Victor's pictures, getting that extra depth, I think really kind of felt, gave it a new life. I mean, beyond his artwork, and of course we lost Victor recently, which is like a terrible thing to happen, but his artwork is just so amazing. But sometimes what we would want to do would be able to present it in another fresh way and an engaging way, and also sometimes a seamless way. So it was you're able to kind of like feel like you're dropping into the scene, and you're almost in a Victor picture. I feel like I did so many of those. So I was like, yeah, just keep them coming.
One of the things that we're trying to do this year is that we're trying to look at having an archive of Victor's material. So I'm going to give you a bit of a problem here for you to sort out. We've got a Roman villa, and we know the kind of Roman villa. So Razan is doing a sort of 3D version of that Roman villa. But what I've always wanted to do is to have Victor's pictures and take from Victor's pictures his various characters, his figures, and kind of fit them into that 3D space. I mean, I think ultimately what I want is some kind of holographic floating image of this thing in 3D. But how near are we getting, and would you be able to do that kind of thing?
Oh, it's totally doable. I mean, like, I mean, it's using all the kind of technologies we have, we had back then. Today, I mean, I mean, totally doable. It's more of a logistical thing, really, isn't it? It's like an archival, finding the pictures that are relevant to the period that the Roman period, finding the right kind of people, because if you've only got Roman warriors and you want to put some regular, everyday people in there, then you need those regular. So you have to find those throughout the pictures. So it's basically going through Victor's archive, finding the right characters or the right types of people, maybe making a library, just a database, so where these people are in the folders, and then handing them to Raysan to be able to populate them and put them into, and then there might be lots of other different ways, interesting ways to kind of, like, I was thinking that today what you could do is you could add extra bits of animation to, if you've got Victor's, if he's drawn a face of a character, maybe to get the character to talk or blink or do, these things, those type of things are much more possible now than they used to be. You can do a lot more character animation. which was quite hard to do back even in 2010. It wasn't really well developed.
So if you've got a picture of a face, Neil, or a figure, can you kind of arrange a false 3D?
Yeah, exactly.
Around that.
Yeah. I mean, there's different ways to do that. I mean, like I was saying before, you even have AI that can do that, which I think they call it deep nostalgia, deep fake. There's software, there's plugins you can get which allow you to do that kind of thing. And also, like I say, just even within my regular software, there's different approaches, like to do character animation, to get eyes to blink and heads to turn and to feel like these 2D components feel like they're a 3D head. So that there's definitely more we can do.
And Sue Breeze is going to be joining us again, so you'll have a 2D buddy there.
Hey, awesome.
What now? At the moment, I know that you're teaching, you're doing storyboards. What's your current day job? What are you doing now?
Oh gosh, so I do a whole bunch of stuff. I diversified. So I still do motion graphics, and again, the kind of motion graphics I do, I've worked for other history shows. I do stuff for social media, which is like, it's like one of the biggest kind of ways that motion graphics people get work these days. But I also do storyboarding. I worked for events companies, business companies that you kind of illustrate people's meetings, and so I was using my art skills in a live situation, trying to capture people's stories about work or whatever. I do. I teach as well. I teach all the things that I do, like storyboarding and
you've got a book coming out.
I have, and Tim, I got the advanced copy on Friday. So this is, I don't know, it's a bit blurry there, but there you go. So it's all to do with the Middle Ages. So I worked with like Eleanor Janega.
Wow.
So a lot of the work that I did when I left Time Team in terms of illustration is I started to get work doing like medieval kind of illumination style artwork. So I started to do things like that.
And what's this book called, Neil?
This is called The Middle Ages, a graphics history.
Nice.
So, I mean, it's all about, that period, basically, but at all different levels. So it's not just about kings and queens, but it's about everyday folk. And it just takes you through the also like highlights the politics. So, I mean, Icon Books are the publisher, and that's due to come out in June the 3rd in the UK, and then in America it will come out at some point in September. So I'm so stoked to have a copy like that is for me a big thing. So I'm really excited about.
If you had your choice, Neil, did you ever find there was a particular historic period, or we do this thing where we ask people when we're talking to them, if you had a chance to go to a particular place with Time Team, you've got the whole team there, you're in charge, you can take them anywhere you like. What sort of sites or what sort of periods would you like to go back to so that you could almost be sketching the 2D of the world as it existed in the past?
Oh, well, I like the Middle Ages. I'm biased because I like that stuff. I love drawing in that kind of style. But the periods that I found most for me interesting were more of the industrial, a lot of the later stuff, and the Second World War, or anything to do with those, because they were very recent. So like, when we went to Shooter's Hill, as I mentioned before, I really just, I don't know, I just kind of really like that. We did a shoot in Jersey as well. That was incredibly interesting. Like
Mount Orgoy, there was a big castle there, wasn't there? What were you doing on that?
Because we did 2 shoots there.
And we did the German presence, didn't we? Those underground tunnels and stuff. Is that just because there's more figurative, there's more structural material for you to relate to?
Yeah, it's like, I had some of the props that I needed to make were like in that kind of style. I got to do some artwork related to that, and you know, do some illustration, because I really became more of an illustrator when I left Time Team, because I was doing more, you know, day to day, more motion graphics. But what I did, but I always had an interest in illustration. So if I could, I'd try to bring in that. And so for that shoot, I was doing a little bit of illustration, which was really nice, and giving things a sort of giving the artwork or the props a homogeneous style, so that it sort of wasn't just a patchwork of graphics, but things actually did filter into even the final graphics. So there'll be a map at the end where it just sort of shows you the different locations, and it sort of tips. But the little kind of icons, marker places, were based on the icons that I made as props that I put into the ground, you know. So the pre-production artwork followed through all the way through production to post-production.
And how long did you get in post-production, Neil, for you to do your stuff? Were you given a limited number of days and you had to get it all done within that? Did it get pretty hectic at that stage?
We used to have, if I remember rightly, a 2-week block per show. So we'd have 2 weeks to work on a show. We go into the for the post-production, we go into have a meeting with the directors who are making the offline. So the offline is where they do the rough cut of the show, and you know, there'd be a kind of a request list from the director. We'd like this, and you kind of show us the different parts of the show from the rough cut. And they'd have sort of gaps there. This gap is for this graphic, and we'd ask questions, and they'd say, "Can we do this?" And we say, "Oh well, yeah, we could do that, but we can also do this if you want." And Ray Sam would get a list of graphics that he kind of, you know, I get a list of graphics. Sometimes they cross over because, you know, I need to supply him with certain bits or vice versa. So I think per show 2 weeks, but you know, there was a little bit of also prep as well. We have to kind of figure out what we really wanted to kind of achieve with the graphics, and that was usually the flow.
What we're planning to do, Neil, is we're planning to have a link, live link to Razan in New Zealand.
Amazing.
He's going to be doing his 3D in New Zealand. You and Sue are going to be on the ground, sort
Awesome.
of handling the 2D graphics, Victor's archive, hopefully, and anything else we can throw at it. Final few questions for you. We always ask people, Time Team in 3 words. What would be the 3 words?
I get fuzzy thoughts. I get fuzzy thoughts of all the people that I work with that I want to give hugs to.
Fuzzy is one. Okay, fuzzy. Yeah. Another one. You got 3.
Okay. Setting people on parts. All the archaeologists, or not all the archaeologists, many of the archaeologists I spoke to grew up watching the show, and then decided, right, I want to become an archaeologist. So path. And
the 3rd word, if you had to think of one word that applies to Time Team, what word comes into your mind?
Tea time.
Tea time.
It's perfect time to watch Time Team at tea time.
This has become a more abstract philosophical exercise than it is normally, which is
I know.
great.
Sorry.
I know that's absolutely wonderful. So 3 words, and memories of Time Team outside the job when you were on all those shows. Was there a particular moment that you remember with pleasure, you look back on, or was great fun, or some alarming practical joke, or what's a nice memory you have?
I like the burning of the Wicker Man. I think that was a rather triumphant thing to pull off. Like, it was impressive. It's huge. So this is Anglesey. Billy Pink was a director, and they're basically it was kind of like a cameo-ish sort of thing, where there was a chap, I forget his name, maybe you remember, but he built Wicker people. And there was an idea to build a Wicker Man on site, and it would be a grand finale. And I remember saying, why don't we get the chap to make an effigy of Phil instead? And he did it, and it was amazing. And then Victor painted this picture, but it was at the end of the shoot. There was Phil setting alight his effigy, and the rest is history. It was just it was just impressive. I don't know. What did you think?
Well, I did. I remember the shot. I remember the sequence because we showed it on Time Team Classics recently.
Right.
It was amazing. But I remember Victor's picture of the original sort of druidic Iron Age Celtic ceremony, and with these people packed inside it, so that the flames were going up, and you could see, there was just a hint of people's hands and things like that, and it was a strong moment. And I think for all of us, it was sort of slightly humorous because it was Phil, sort of with a hat and things. But then on the other hand, it became that reality of us standing on the beach and feeling the heat of the flames and thinking, my God, did this actually happen?
Exactly. It's kind of like everything dovetails into one another, and how we present the stories is kind of like folding in on each other. And if someone asks me, I'd like you to make an illustration of a Wicker Man with burning people. I mean, that is like an artist's dream come true. It's like, yeah. I mean, that's just an exciting proposition to illustrate. Even though I know it's horrific. A lot of the things that in history can be, horrific, and but there's something about representing and telling these stories, letting people know what went on. It's not all about keeping everything nice and soft and lovely. Sometimes history is jagged and hard and cold and messy and dark and all those kind of things. So it's being able to kind of portray those things. But from an artist's point of view, it's really something to kind of get your teeth into, isn't it? So lucky Victor on that one.
Neil, thank you very much for this lovely chat with you. Lovely to catch up. I'm very excited about your idea of we'll try and get nearer to that sort of element of animation. We're talking with Victor's family all the time, and I think we've got very much their support to move forward with Time Team and sort of celebrate Victor's work. And I think that's just brilliant. Sue will be there to keep an eye on you, and
like the old days.
Like the old days, you'll have to behave. And Ray-Zan will be in New Zealand somewhere.
My graphics brother.
Your graphics brother in New Zealand, missing some of the evening fun and games, which was very enjoyable and memorable, but he'll be around. So
good.
Thank you very much. Very good luck with the book. We're going to put up a link afterwards to that, which is coming out in June. So well done with that. It's tough to produce a book. Let's see a flash of the cover. It's a bit out of focus somehow. But
yeah, I've got to put it in my jumper. So
nice. It's really exciting. So get out and buy Neil's book. Thank you very much, Neil. Stay well and be looking forward to seeing you on the shoots.
Yeah, you take care, my friend.
We can't do any of this work without you, so please subscribe, back us on Patreon, and make sure that Time Team comes back again.